Welcome to the Middle School Bookmarker Show. My name is Brianna.
And I'm Chris. We're teachers reading this middle school novel for the very first time. We hope you'll read it along with us and then listen to our conversation about it.
This week, we're covering Schooled by Gordon Korman, and we just read chapters 2 and 3. So if you haven't read those chapters yet, go do that now.
Oh, and by the way, we're going to get this whole thing done in about 11 minutes because 11 minutes is all you need to
get set up to be class president as a prank because you're a weird hippie kid who doesn't know any better. So these chapters really start picking up with the action, but before we get into some of that craziness I just talked about, let's talk a little bit about Mrs. Donnelly.
Flora Mundy Donnelly. Flora Mundy, she seems pretty much at the beginning of chapter 2 to be very judgmental of Garland, but we find out why she's judgmental of Garland.
Right, so Mrs. Donnelly, Flora, actually used to live in the Garland Farm community as a child in the 60s when it first opened up because her parents wanted to join the community, and she actually stayed there for about 6 years.
And she doesn't describe her experiences as being bad for being in the community. She talks about like running around on a farm or something like that. But as an adult, she's looking back at it and she seems a little bit bitter because at some point her parents said, we're leaving the community and we're going to enter the real world. And it was very abrupt and difficult for her and very jarring to all of a sudden go from this kind of like community style living, nobody owns anything, we're all going to farm together and share everything, to the real world.
Right. And I think she mentions that she didn't even know what doorknobs were, like how to correctly use a doorknob, and just things that you wouldn't think would be common knowledge if you grow up in the quote-unquote normal world. But to Flora, she had a lot of trouble adjusting. And I'm wondering if that's maybe the reason that she went into the foster care social services system.
I think you might be onto something, because there's a point in this chapter, in chapter 2, where Ms. Donnelly has the paperwork that assigned Capricorn to some kind of foster family or something like that, and she actually crumples it up. And it's implied, at least I picked up on, that she's going to raise him, and that she totally got rid of the official plans for Capricorn. She saw Capricorn. She saw this kid who was coming out of a situation like she did, leaving this community, unfamiliar with the real world. She has some insight as to some of the difficulties and transitions that he's going to have to deal with. And she said, you know what? I'm going to take care of this kid myself.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting because I think there were two different reasons why she chose to have him as a foster kid. I think the one is the connection that she felt because he's in a similar situation that she was. And I think the other is that she just doesn't really understand why Rain is still having this community. And I think she kind of wants to figure out more about Rain through Capricorn. That's just a prediction I have. I don't know if it's actually true.
She mentioned something at the end. Let me actually flip to it, where she kind of lights up when she realizes that Rain is related to Capricorn. She says that, this is Donnelly speaking, so I knew what I needed to be done for his own good, getting to the key of Capricorn's heart. She says that she used to know Rain, and going on, Rain would want you to be with somebody who understands, which I think is probably misleading.
Oh, I think it is too, because she mentions how she used to be scared of Rain because Rain was kind of like the big, leader of this commune at the time. Yeah, a witch. So she doesn't describe her in a positive manner. So that's why I think she kind of has multiple motivations going for her with Cap.
I completely agree. So it'll be interesting to see if Ms. Donnelly is making decisions that kind of discount all the things that Capricorn's going to bring to the real world, the normal world. I bet that there's going to be a whole lot of stuff happening where she's like, oh, that's not how you do things in the real world. That's not going to work here. And some of it's probably going to be true. But I also bet that Capricorn, he probably schools her a little bit in the end of it. Hey, schools. I didn't even say that on purpose, but I bet he schools her in the end a little bit too.
Oh, I'm sure he does. So do we want to move on talking about chapter 3 a little bit?
I do, but first I would like to share the secret word. Our secret word for this week is locker. So if you're paying attention, note it down. Keep track with last week's word. Let's jump into chapter 3.
So in chapter 3, we meet another character. So this is the third point of view that we've had in this novel so far. And this point of view is told by Zach Powers, who refers to himself as kind of the big man on campus. He's the coolest 8th grader at Claveridge Middle School, which actually is called C Average to the kids who go there.
And I do want to talk about how the sign goes from Claveridge to C Average, but I want to take a pause right here and kind of fill in the English class stuff for this episode. I want to talk about how really in this first, I'm looking at a third of a page or a quarter page here where Zach Powers is introduced. So much good characterization and so much effective characterization happens in this short little part of a page. In just a couple lines, we know about Zach Powers. Authors will use things that characters do or ways that characters say or the way that other characters react to characters to build up information and traits about characters. So we see Capricorn, immediately he's high-fiving kids. Immediately there's multiple kids saying, hey, I said Capricorn, I meant Zach. So we meet Zach, and everybody's saying, hey, Zach, they're high-fiving him. How's it going, Zach? He confidently hops off the bus. He talks about being captain of the football and soccer team, which, sidebar, how is that possible? They're both fall sports. But anyway, so he hops off the bus. He's very confident. We see it from other characters. We see it through his actions. And we also hear it in his brain when he talks about how everything's perfect and he's the top dog now. And he looked up to other people for a while, but now there's nobody else to look up to because he is the top dog. So do you want to explain that sign, Brianna?
Yeah, so there's a sign, I guess, in the front of the school that says, "Welcome to Claveridge Middle School." And it's kind of a joke among the students there that they call it C Average. So I guess they just get rid of the L all the time, and then the school keeps fixing it. And so Zach takes it almost as like a personal, against him, like, oh man, they fixed the sign again. So it's like his job that he has to go fix it and remove that L again.
And so we also see that's more characterization. He's mischievous. He's a prankster, which leads to probably the main point of the chapter, if not one of the main points of the entire first third of the book. I'm predicting that Capricorn bumps into Zach, and Zach, he is excited to meet Capricorn because Zach had been planning on setting up someone for a school election. I think it was school president. And unlike most schools where it's prestigious and considered a good thing to be class president, well, in this school they actually set somebody up to be made fun of. I think, what was the kid's name? Hugh Winkleman? Hugh Winkleman was some poor kid that was about to get set up by Zach Powers until Zach turns the corner one day and he sees this strange homemade clothed looking hippie kid around the corner, and he starts to develop some new ideas.
Right. So I think the principal or the assistant principal, I think it is, introduces Capricorn to Zach and asks Zach to show him around the school, show him to his locker and to homeroom. And Zach is like, who is this kid? Why does he have long hair? Why does he have these homemade sandals? What's going on? And Capricorn, never having been in public school before, doesn't even know how to put in his locker combination. So to Zach, that's a gold mine. He's like, oh, this kid is so weird. He's definitely going to be my nominee for class president.
And there's a good interaction where they go back and forth when he's like, it's a locker. This is how you open it. This is your combination. Here, I'll do it for you. And Capricorn just has no idea what's going on. There's a line here that I bet comes back later. It is when, right after Capricorn asks, how do I know what stuff to lock away in my locker? And Zach goes, it's your stuff. You figure it out. Capricorn says, well, when we lock things away, he said with conviction, we're really imprisoning ourselves, which is absolutely something that would be shared in a commune. Everything in a commune is all about sharing. You grow food together, you share it. You make things, you share it. So Capricorn doesn't even really understand this idea of locking away your personal property. Something that we in the normal world, we do all the time. We lock all of our important stuff up.
Yeah, and I agree. That was a line that really stood out to me, and I'm very curious to see how that line kind of continues into maybe to be one of the themes of the novel.
Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything that we had on our checklist. We got about a minute left. I really hope that we find out what happens to poor Hugh Winkleman. I hope that by the end of the book, we circle back and we find out what happens to Hugh, because I don't think we've seen the last of Hugh. I think he's going to be a side character that might pop up later.
I agree. I think he might end up being a friend of Capricorn's. So we'll see where that leads.
Yeah. All right. Scanning the checklist, I think we're good. I'm really enjoying Schooled so far. a lot has happened in just the first 15 or 20 pages we've read, and I'm very intrigued to see what happens next.
So am I. I can't wait to keep reading.
So next chapter we are going to be doing, next time we're just going to be doing chapter 4, which is a longer Capricorn chapter. We hope that you read along with us, and we'll see you for chapter 4.